here when I arrived.
Nice to cut this thing off.
Simple enough to hook this thing up. Couldn't be much simpler, could it? There you go.
Oh, you got any Mr. Good bars?
Is there any in there?
Well, I know you always give Andy's, you got Andy covered.
Yeah, these are the
What did you say that is? Either? I can always ask. Yeah. Bring that one.
I don't know who can outside.
That's what I was wondering about.
a stash right there. You can pass them around.
Isn't that great?
Oh my goodness, thank you very much.
For you?
I'll probably make it now. No, I'm good.
You're good whenever you.
Shannon, we ready?
You're good, yep.
You're good. Declare our meeting in order. This is a regular meeting of the Stokes County Commissioners for July 8th, 2019. And first item of business, I'll excuse or ask that we excuse without objection Chairman Nicholson, who will be absent from this meeting, and I'll be conducting the meeting in his place. So hearing no objection, we will consider Chairman Nicholson excused. Next item is our invocation, and Commissioner Morris, I'm told it's your turn, if you will, please.
Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege of meeting here tonight to do the county's business. We ask that you would bless us and give us strength, wisdom, and guidance as we go through the information and make decisions so that we make the best decisions we can for the residents of Stokes County. Please lead, guide, and direct us as we go forward in the coming week. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our next item is approval of the agenda. What is the pleasure of the board regarding this item?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a request on that.
Okay,
I would like to ask that we move the item on the RFQ draft for Meadows Water onto the discussion agenda and move it for next week and not tonight, on next week's discussion agenda, so that we have a full board of commissioners here to discuss it, among some other reasons which I can go through if you would like.
okay. Commissioner Morris, would you make that in the form of a motion, please?
Make a motion to move the RFQ draft Meadows Water discussion, which is under information, to next week's discussion agenda, so that we have a full board of commissioners to discuss that. And that's good for a motion, I guess.
Yes, sir. You've heard Commissioner Morris's motion that item number 5B, request for quotes draft for Meadows Water, be moved to next week's meeting under discussion. Is there a second? I'm hearing no second. So,
Can I ask a question?
um,
Or you want to wait till you get a second? I understand.
normally we would
Yeah,
wait
yeah.
if we had a second, but are we going to have a second? Well, I'm going to move on if we don't. And we'll just leave it on the agenda as it is.
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as is already on our tablets there.
Okay, we have a motion. We did not get a second on Commissioner Morris's motion. We now have a motion from Commissioner Mendenhall that we approve the agenda as presented. Is there a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion?
Thanks, gentlemen, for your support.
I'm sorry. If I'd have known the details, I would have supported it.
Excuses, excuses.
Commissioner Morris, if you will, please ask for the floor prior to speaking.
I'll do that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second that we approve the agenda as presented. Any further discussion or any discussion? Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no.
Aye.
The motion carries 3-1. Fellow's gonna make me earn my money this evening. Next item is comments from managers and commissioners. I'll start with Commissioner Morris.
I'd like to welcome everybody that came out tonight and those that may be watching on the YouTube channel. I'll be having office hours tomorrow night at the regular 4 to 7 hours here at the building up on room 325. Anybody's interested in coming and talking about any subject related to the county. I'll also be blogging tomorrow morning, so if you're interested in the blog, please be looking for that tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay. I'll go ahead and make a brief comment, and that is it's good to see all of you. And I want to put a plug in for something that happens here in our county, and that's our farmers markets. Had a chance to go by one of them this past Saturday and buy some locally produced produce and bought some homemade sausage. It is really good. And I understand we have a farmers market at Hanging Rock, at the Y in King. What day is Hanging Rock? Saturday. We have a farmers market at the Y in King on Wednesdays. Anybody know the hours for those two? By chance?
Morning.
Okay, King is morning, and what is Hanging Rock? Anyone know?
Morning.
This morning also, and I think the one at, it's across from King City Hall in that parking lot just across the street. And it's Saturday morning. Well, it's Saturday, I think, from about 8:30 to 2. And I would encourage folks to go by and support our local farmers and folks who bring items to sell, produce and other things to those markets to sell. Who's talking? But anyhow, I'll stop there and ask Commissioner Yachts for his comments.
Yeah, I'll make it very brief and like to welcome everyone tonight. Thanks for coming out on a beautiful afternoon. Come through a little much needed rainstorm on the way up for the small area that got it. So again, welcome everyone tonight and look forward to working on things of the county.
Okay. Commissioner Mendenhall?
Thank you, sir. And I just want to welcome everyone also. As I do every meeting, I want to say thank you for participating in the county's government. The process that we have here gives you a chance to come up and make public comments if you have any. We're always welcome to you to listen to what you have to say. And I hope everyone had a good 4th of July. And I hope all of y'all will pray a little prayer for some rain on Flat Shoals Road. We are dry over there. Thank you for being here today. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Manager?
I don't have anything, Mr. Vice Chairman Walker, but I would like to welcome everyone here, and I hope everybody is doing well.
With that, we'll move to public comments. I have a couple of folks signed up for this evening. One of them is very familiar for us, and that would be Miss Ellen Perrick.
Good evening. Ellen Perrick, 1095 Wheeler Smith Road, Lawsonville. I'm here to update you on the arts. In the Apple Gallery this July, Belinda Eldridge is showing her photography, and she is from Stokes County, and her reception will be this Friday at 5:30. The Danbury Songwriters Series continues during the summer. July 11th is the Brown Mountain Lightning Bugs. They are a folk Americana group hailing from Winston-Salem. Tickets are $5 at the door for that show. On July 13th, we're trying something we're calling a portable art sit-in at the Arts Place at 10 a.m. And this is where artists from all over, if you can carry your art, you can bring it and spend some time with some other artists out front of the Arts Place. So we're going to try that and see if people, we've been asked by artists, they want to get together with each other and spend some time together. Kaleidoscope making class at 12:30 on the 13th. This is the second class because the first one was so successful. So that is a nice, people love the kaleidoscope making class. Danbury Songwriters on the 18th is featuring Josh Shelton, who grew up like 200 yards from the Arts Place. He plays acoustic and electric guitar, so that should be a good show. That's $5 at the door. Films of the Triad Movie Night is showing Susie's Hope, which is a famous dog story from Lexington, July 18th, and that's going to be at King Central Park at 8:30 p.m., and that's free. We'll be selling concessions for our scholarship program, but it's a free show. On July 20th at 7 p.m., Mason Vi and Hot Trail Mixes are in concert. And Mason Vi, of course, very, local, just a great young singer-songwriter, and his group will be there. And tickets are $10 and $8 for Arts Council members. The kids' camps we're wrapping up theater camp right now at Mount Olive. Visual Arts Camp is next at Mount Olive. Pottery Camp, July 15th. We had to put in another pottery camp because the first one sold out so fast, and parents were not happy that they couldn't get their kids in pottery camp. So Take the Lead Dance Camp, July 22nd. New Perspectives on Art Camp, July 29th. And we added an Art of Cooking Camp, August 12th, which has been very well received, and that's being taught by Patty Snyder. And just a final note from John Berry fans. John Berry, as you know, performed for us last year. He's bringing his full band this year, July 26th, Friday at 7 p.m. So tickets will go fast. You can go to Brown Paper Tickets for those. Thank you.
Okay. We have another person signed up, and I can see the first name is Paula. Help me with your last name, please.
Duggan, it's actually Duggan King.
Oh, I thought that was an N. Sorry. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you.
3 minutes.
Paula Duggan King, 1546 Asbury Speedway Road in Westfield. I'm one of the coordinators of our communities of Northwest Stokes. And this is kind of an impromptu remarks because I wasn't planning on speaking, but I've been working on one of our projects today that I thought you might want to be updated on some of the things that we've been doing in Northwest Stokes. So I printed out one of our updates, which you have. And I wanted to talk about a couple of projects. One, since you mentioned the Stokes Futures Farmers Market. Stokes Futures is now under our umbrella.
Oh, good.
In 2015, we started a nonprofit because there wasn't one in our area. And we found that now people and organizations are coming to us because we are the best source for a nonprofit. So we're really excited about having them under our umbrella. Today I was really working on one of the projects that is coming up that Ellen mentioned, the dance camp, Take the Lead dance camp. This is a camp that our community's organized and is a partnership among, or collaboration among Take the Lead Dance in Forsyth County and the Stokes County Arts Council. And our initiative was to try to bring dance into the schools, especially in the northern part of the county, because kids, for a number of different reasons, don't have really easy access to arts experiences. And and this camp was really in response to things that we were hearing from middle school girls about the kinds of anxiety, depression, etc., and that they really found dance a source of happiness and self-expression. So that was why we started it, and we've found actually that it's very complex to get kids involved in something that really has to do with self-expression, and that a lot of the reasons why we want to start this is always also a reason why it's been a challenge to get kids involved in it. And another thing that we've become very aware of, we were told that we needed to make personal invitations to go to the camp. And we have offered scholarships to the camp to reduce the camp by 50% for Northwest kids. That has come out of the funds that we've raised from our festival, Farm Fest, in the fall. And then we've had some individuals step up to say that they would help with scholarships for other kids. And we've been working with parents individually whose kids we know really want to dance. And I've just become so aware of the difficulties, as much as, printing out the forms for registration. We're helping also, we've said that we would work with the parents to provide transportation, etc. So we're really happy about this partnership, because this is the kind of thing, as you'll see, that we really are trying to do, that we need to do. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that we're rolling out a grants program we're just rolling it out this week. And it's a program that's open to individuals and groups in Northwest Stokes. And we're offering $500 grants and $1,000 grants. And we're trying to make it very accessible, very easy to do. We're offering one-on-one assistance with even filling out the grant applications. And we're really encouraging people who have no experience in this to put forward their ideas about projects that could help their community or the area as a whole. So I just wanted to let you know.
Oh, excuse me, please. Sorry.
What?
A little housekeeping matter.
Okay.
I think I heard Shannon's alarm over there.
But that's fine. I'm finished.
Oh, I didn't want to stop you midstream while you were talking
Well, I was
about
going
the
to
grants.
take, I'll just say one thing. We also are working on longer range projects, and one of those is a store, gas station, and cafe in Francisville.
Okay, we do need to stop there. Thank you. All right. Now we move to our consent agenda. What is the pleasure of the board regarding our consent agenda?
To approve.
Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. Our consent agenda is approved. We now move to our information agenda. Let me back up just a little bit here. I'm about to get used to this new way of doing things. Seems like I saw, oops, I went back too far. Seems like I saw Pam Tillman as the contact person for this item. Pam, if you would come forward, please. And this, I believe, might be a quarterly update.
That's correct.
Thank you, ma'am.
There should have been enough for everybody. Okay, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to come give the update about Life Bright. As far as a financial review, we have made some improvements in the last quarter, not the least of which is the cost report settlement with Medicare, which has resulted in our getting the expected payments from Medicare and Medicare HMOs, which had only been paying us at about half of the expected rate. So operating a hospital at half price is pretty difficult to have cash flow. So this has helped with the cash flow to support our needed operations. We're also reviewing payer contracts to ensure that other commercial payers are reimbursing us for care at their contractual arrangements. And that process is ongoing just to be able to spot check and make sure we're getting what we're supposed to be getting from the commercial payers. Our ongoing financial challenges for the Rural Hospital relate to the fact that we have such a high Medicare, Medicaid, and self-pay population. So with that high percentage, we desperately need the commercial payers to for the outpatient services to provide enough revenue to make ends meet. So as a result, we have many community members who have reached out to Blue Cross Blue Shield and Cigna requesting that our hospital be back in network with those payers. And those efforts will be ongoing. The big impact for the folks in the community with these commercial payers is that if they come to their doctor who is in network at our hospital-based clinics and the doctor wants to send them down the hallway for an x-ray, that x-ray is out of network. So the person either has to make the decision to pay more for the x-ray and walk down the hall or drive 30 to 45 minutes to get the x-ray elsewhere. So these are our efforts that are important for financial viability for us, but also for us to be able to make sense with taking care of somebody while they're at the clinic. For the state health plan, you all may have heard that the state health plan has been in flux. This basically affects our state employees, retirees, and their families. So for the school system, I know we've gotten a lot of calls that people want to know if we're going to be in network. And the way this has played out is that we were asked to make a commitment to this program by July 1st, even though it's not to go into effect till January 1st of 2020. So even though the finances of signing this agreement are not favorable for the hospital, we felt it was important for us to go ahead and fulfill our priority to care for our patients and be here to be able to provide those services. So we still feel that the ongoing work that the North Carolina Healthcare Association is doing to advocate for the hospitals is important, and we are encouraging members of the state health plan to call their state senators and encourage them to pass House Bill 184. So that's going to be important for the community and for us, but we wanted to let you know that we are supporting our state employees and retirees by supporting being a part of their healthcare network. Some of our other challenges are the building repairs and ongoing foundation issues with the hospital. Know that you've had some business come before you about our aged building, and we appreciate your support in looking at viable options and solutions to combat some of these issues. All the hospital managers are working diligently to do a combination of controlling expenses while we look at ways to increase revenue in order to sustain the hospital operations. As far as strategic planning and our services, we will begin ENT surgeries in the month of July. We'll add back cataract surgeries in the month of August. And we're continuing to provide general surgery, orthopedics, podiatry, and GI procedures at the facility in King. Pine Hall continues to grow services with Kirk Dickey, who's adult geriatric nurse practitioner who has joined us as a provider. He replaces Marie Stanley, who we had brought on board as we converted Pine Hall to a rural health clinic. So he has been training and onboarding with us, and he actually started seeing patients in Pine Hall today. We have been working with the Veland Copper plant and are doing some of their workers' comp. We are the first site for workers' comp in the daytime, and then at nighttime, our emergency department is a site for their workers' comp. We've done health fairs with the Unified plant and trying to do partnership with them and get their primary care as well for the Pine Hall Clinic. Just want to remind everybody the emergency department is open 24/7 for all payers for emergency care. So even though we're working with Blue Cross and Cigna to become in-network, if you have any type of insurance and you have an emergency, you can still be treated in our emergency department. Our acute and swing bed census at the hospital remains variable from 6 to 12 patients. The hospital based long-term care, our 40-bed long-term care, average census is 37 to 38 patients. And we do have the hospital-based clinics in Danbury. We have the Rural Health Family Medicine Clinic that's inside the walls of the hospital, as well as the pediatric clinic, and then the Pine Hall Clinic, which had converted to the Rural Health Clinic in February. We'll be hosting the King Chamber of Commerce Business Before Hours this coming Wednesday at Life Bright Medical Center of King. We'll have the facility open and be able to provide tours for anybody who wants to come to business before hours. The North Carolina Office of Rural Health continues to provide support and resources for the hospital as they're concerned with the ongoing challenges facing the rural hospitals and targeting the small rural hospitals as needing help to prevent closures. The last item by way of update is the lease agreement with Life Bright, and the county has a third leg in there, and that is the Stokes Rentals Hospital Board. And the board bylaws for this third leg say that we will meet as the Stokes Rentals Board annually. That meeting, per the bylaws, is supposed to happen in October, and I think last October we knew there was going to be change in the Board of County Commissioners, who are the hospital board. So after the election, we did not get that meeting called. So would like to ask that we get a date on the books to have this hospital board meeting so that we can spend a little more time discussing some of the complexity of the hospital, some of the needs, and possibly have a member of the Board of Commissioners serve as a liaison to help with some of the community efforts. So it's a big responsibility that you all have as this dual role of the Board of Commissioners as the hospital Stokes Rentals Board to manage this lease. So wanted to have an opportunity to call that meeting when you were the board without an operating leasing entity. We typically had met right before the Board of County Commissioners would meet, so we can schedule that however you all feel it would work.
Okay. Very good. A lot of information for us. Would you be willing to answer questions or entertain any comments our board might have regarding this information?
Sure.
Okay, I'll open the board, start with, open the board for questions or comments. Start with Commissioner Mendenhall.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, I appreciate it. Pam, I just had 2 or 3 comments. One, the first thing I want to do was say that I was very positive on your 3rd bullet point where you said that after careful consideration, the proposed changes to the state health plan, and you went on and said it was decided it was in the best interest of our patients and the future of LifeBright to join the proposed state health plan. This was a difficult decision that we did not make lightly. However, the last sentence, I think, summarized and prioritized that. It says our biggest priority has and always will be the care we provide for our patients. So I'm very thankful that you made that comment, that decision there. The second one I had, the second question, or this is more of a question, is on page 2 under strategic planning, you talked about workers' comp and Beal and Copper, and you went over the hours, et cetera, but is that saying, do y'all have a monopoly on all of the workers' comp that comes from Beal and Copper? It's a workers' comp situation at Beal and Copper. Do y'all get it?
Yes, we're the first during the daytime hours. They can use Western Rockingham if we had overflow and they needed to, and then our emergency
But y'all
department.
were the first.
Yes.
That's great. And I think that was it. I might have had one more, but if I did, it slipped my mind. So, Mr. Vice Chair, that's all I have.
Okay. Commissioner Yance?
Yeah, Ms. Tillman, thanks for presenting this. It's positive to see the financial review, but as Commissioner Mendenhall stated, the strategic planning, it's great to see you guys benefiting from the partnership that you have with Velan. I think it's important, and you guys obviously have seen that, to know I guess the business model in that aspect is kind of changing. I see it at my employer. We partner up with other entities such as LifeBright to handle our workers' comp, and we have a 24-hour triage nurse that we have to call, and all those things are very important moving forward to sustain, and it's nice to see that you guys are kind of moving in that direction and taking advantage where you can, so thank you.
Now, I want to address the last item. And it does sound like we need to do a little housekeeping there, so to speak. I think we still have a board of trustees. I believe I chair that board.
Yes, sir,
And we have some previous commissioners on the board. And we don't have our new commissioners seated on it, I don't think, because we didn't automatically say that the commissioners replacing other commissioners would become a hospital trustee. I don't recall that. Do you, or am I remembering correctly?
Well, I brought it with me just in case there was a question I didn't know, so I can look at that, but.
So anyhow, we don't necessarily need to answer all the questions or tie up all the loose ends at this meeting, but I do think we need, per your request, and I agree, to start working toward that meeting. It may take us a little time to figure out exactly all that we need to do. how we'll go about it. And I think it will not happen overnight, but it needs to happen in the near future.
Yes, sir.
And Madam Clerk, if you could, start kind of bringing some things together on behalf of the board so that we are in a dual role, Board of Commissioners, Board of Trustees, at least to some extent. Two of us, I think. Wait a minute. Were you on that board?
No, I wasn't.
So only one person, me, is still active on the Board of Commissioners.
I'm just gonna, I can get with Ty and make sure, but I'm gonna speculate that that'll work the same way as the Board of Health worked and the DSS board. It's the sitting Board of Commissioners that you act as a dual role on, that you'd be the Board of Trustees for the hospital, the commissioners that are in office now.
If that could be,
Petrie board or any of those, it rolls over to the new members.
if that could be clarified, because
And I can give
I
you the
don't like
copyright.
to,
I
don't
think
like to
it's
assume,
on
like
page-
to have some specific
Do
information
you
to
see
guide
something
us.
specific in there that says that?
Yeah, I think on page 3. That's,
Does it say kind of that same thing?
I
That's-
would read that.
The board shall consist of 5 elected members of the Board of Commissioners. Stokes County shall serve 5. So it's just the Board of Commissioners that is the board now. So the board
But
now
if you will,
is.
get Todd's rendering on that also, just to be safe.
and you still have that electronically?
Yeah, I've
that
got
you
it.
could send him? Okay.
And,
Do you want to look at a date while Pam is here and with her calendar too? So we can kind of tentatively,
well, we're
about a day.
missing a commissioner, so that limits us a little far as choosing a date. We could choose it provisionally.
Mhm.
But, Pam, let me ask you this, if I may, please. What urgency do you place on this from your perspective?
Well, we're already behind.
Okay.
So,
Which is not overly unusual. Sometimes just things happen that way. When would you like to see this done by?
as soon as we could, I know that having the hospital board support for some of our community initiatives, I think would be a positive.
Okay. We have said, I think that you said that it has occurred previously just prior to our commissioners meetings. We'd meet as a board of trustees and then kind of end that meeting and we would have our commissioners meeting. Our next meeting is
August.
first meeting in
July.
August, well, second meeting in July, the 22nd, I believe. And if we could have it, I'll call the meeting when things are ready and when we can push the button. All the Board of Trustees, our Chairman Nicholson will have to get this board's concurrence or whatever we need to do. So I'm asking the board, do we need to put this on our next agenda for discussion, or do we need to try to act on it by next meeting? Or are there any other options the board is interested in at this time?
I'm personally open, as Ms. Tillman said, we're already behind, so, you know, if we need to discuss it and make a decision at the next meeting, would that suffice?
Sure.
Concurrence? Commissioner Reynolds? Okay. Commissioner Morris?
I'm good with that. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure that these new board members are serving in a dual role, and we need to have a meeting since we're late. It needs to be one where all commissioners are in attendance whenever we have it.
Sure.
Yeah, just to be absolutely sure that what we're talking about, did we elect the previous board members? Are they still elected, or are they automatically replaced by the new board members? If you would clear that up, please, and then arrange, see if we can arrange to have a meeting prior to our next commissioners meeting. Well, Pam, we are very pleased with the work you're doing, continue to do. You've been a real trooper. Put forth a really good effort and continue to, and we're very gratified by all that you've done. Mr. Morris?
I don't have any other, it's a good report, Pam, appreciate it, and I just would echo that we need to have that meeting. We can be looking down the road for medical service support to our residents and how we're going to do that.
we tentatively or provisionally scheduling a meeting just prior to our next commissioners meeting.
You're not scheduling it just prior to your next commissioners meeting. You're talking about it again to schedule the date, is what you said, correct?
Let me clear that up. I thought from a couple of commissioners, we were actually looking at having the meeting prior to the next commissioners meeting. I sort of heard that from Commissioner Yoss and Commissioner Morris. I'm either way. Either we will discuss it some more or we will go ahead and do it. Commissioner Mendenhall, you nodded your head as far as discussion, so we need to kind of pin this down.
My suggestion was is to discuss it at the next meeting and set a date.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I misunderstood. I'm sorry, but
No, that's fine.
and you get your concurrence
Fine
with
with
that, and Commissioner Morris gives his, I do as well. So put it on the discussion agenda for next meeting.
Just to discuss to set a date.
And to be sure we've cleared up any loose ends that may still be out there.
Okay. Yeah, and I'll concur with Ty about the board of trustees.
All right, we'll move to our next. Pam, thank you very much.
All right, thank you all.
Appreciate you being here and bringing the report to us. Request for quotes. Meadows Water, contact Mark Delahat, Director of Public Works. Mark, if you will come forward, please. We'll give you the floor to share with us what you brought this evening for our attention.
Yeah, what you have is a request for qualifications as part of the budget this year. Y'all funded the Meadows Water Project, and during my personal budget meeting and with y'all had particular interest in seeing this move forward. So this would be the first step in that, is selecting an engineering firm. And this meets all the requirements of a USDA project where we go out for requests for qualifications for various engineering firms. At the end of that period, we'd, in discussion with Jake, we'd develop a selection committee, which would consist of a member of the Board of Commissioners, also along with myself, Glenda, and David Sudritz, representing Planning and Zoning, Will Carter of Economic Development, and Shannon and Jake, and we'd go through those qualifications, information that was submitted, and make a selection, somebody we'd get under contract with and pursue this.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Questions or comments? We'll start with Commissioner Morris.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. What project are we talking about? What's the definition of the project?
The Meadows Water Project, I think, was one of the.
Has this board approved a project over there, a defined project?
As part of my budget meeting, I remember we had a number of things, and that one water line in the Meadows area was of particular interest.
There's a lot of ways you can do the water line in the Meadows area, though.
Okay.
You know, to me, what we've got here, and the reason I wanted this on the discussion agenda, the scope of this is kind of a big deal. I didn't put it on my card, but one of the reasons I ran for commissioner was the way this was handled under a previous board. What I would call a debacle, basically. We should already have the water there. The fact that we don't, you know, there's a lot of strategic implications, planning implications. You know, you're asking for a quote on 8,500 feet of main. I mean, and then you're going to have the engineer go out and look for funding on a project that I haven't seen any definition of the project. You know, we had one project that had a tower down at, a water tank down at South Stokes Fire Department. You know, was any of that considered? Or you know, to me, this is, the information you got here, you know, the only thing I can see you could use that for would be a request for information, not a request for a quote.
It's not a quote, it's qualification, so I guess.
Qualification.
Yeah. It's
My mistake, Mark, I apologize.
No, that's fine.
I said quote, I should have said qualifications.
And there would be no requirement that we do anything other than after we solicit qualifications. It's based on the board's decision, obviously, so.
Well, you know, engineering firms, well, I've dealt with engineering firms for 9 years as county manager. And when it comes to producing funding, I've had them produce maybe a little bit for one study, if I remember correctly. I've had zero success of getting them to find and locate funds for projects. So that's one of the things that's mentioned here. I don't understand why this is limited to an engineering firm. Why would it be limited to others who may also, I'm interested in people who are going to hunt for money and bring us money and keep us from having to spend our money. And like I said, I've had zero success with engineering firms. They come in and basically tell you there's no money available. That's what they've always told me on the projects I've worked with them on several different engineering firms. So this, to me, this project is not even defined, so and we hadn't approved anything we're gonna do, how we're gonna do it over there. What are the strategic implications of it as far as providing water to the rest of the county? So I think, other than putting out a request for information maybe on who would be interested in helping us do this project, this kind of seems all premature to me and something that needs a lot more discussion, a lot more information provided to us. I wasn't sure if you're telling us in this information agenda that you're going to do this, or are you asking us to approve you doing it?
This is, I guess, by way of information that we're sending this out, submitting this, requesting engineering firms submit their list of qualifications and experience in similar projects. And namely, I would have certainly agree their success in gaining funding is of primary interest to the county.
Mm-hmm. So what do we do when we pick an engineering firm? What does that limit us from doing in the future as far as the project?
Engineering firms, if you don't mind, Mark and Commissioner Morris, is the engineering is to be established to allow us to see what we are applying for as far as any kind of grants. And without the engineering laid out to saying, hey, this is the type of water line is running, this is where the water line's going, here's where the tank's at, here's how many hookups it's going to be, and here's an estimated cost of what it's going to cost for this project, to allow the actual funding for grants to look at it and say, okay, now I can tell what Stokes County is trying to do here or wanting to do in the Meadows community.
Are we hiring these guys to design the project?
That would be part of the engineering services provided, I said.
Okay.
And with this design, it would be a design that's what would be there no matter what type of phase happened, what kind of funding you got, where the funding come from, if it was all funded by grants or if it was all funded by the county or whatever, it would still have to be engineered to show you what type of water lines, where it would be, and where the hookup and all the actual surveying of how it was laid out. That still would have to be done.
Kind of hold all that together for just a little bit and let us kind of get on down the line with our commissioners, then we'll get back to you if that'll be okay.
You can come back to me. I mean, it sounds like you're telling me the project's not defined. They're going to define the project. Well, why has it got in here that they're going to fill out a USDA funding application? I mean, that sounds like we're hiring them for more than designing the project.
Okay. Let's, if you're at a point where we can.
You can go to the next person.
Yeah, we'll just go on down the line and I'll continue the process, and then we'll allow our manager to make whatever comments he feels like he would prefer to make at this time regarding this issue. When I go to the commissioners' conference, which I attend regularly, I think I might have missed one, might not have even missed one in years. But I talked to a lot of engineering firms, and unless my memory is tricking me, and I hope it's not, when I talked to some of these firms, they referenced being able to get grants for projects. They said that's one thing that they've kind of been able to do that would bring some favorable attention in their direction, at their success in getting grants. So I don't see any downside in talking to engineering firms and asking them what they feel like they can do with a potential project, a tentative project. I think Commissioner Morris is right. He's on solid ground when he says we haven't really defined exactly the scope of this project. And we haven't really identified exactly what we want to accomplish with this project. And I think, just my opinion, 1 of 5, I think we need some engineering input to even clarify our thinking in those directions. Because what we want and what we think we would be able to accomplish, an engineer might see it differently. They might have some very good suggestions that would point us in a better direction. So I'm on board with continuing to gather information, and I see some potential for this project, so I think it's well worth keeping on the front burner. I'll just ask that Commissioner Yance, I'll pass it on to him now, and ask for his thoughts or comments.
Yeah, Mark, thanks for the information. I don't know, I looked at it and what I read here is a request for qualification. I look at it as request for qualification for a partner in the Meadows water project is the way I look at it. And Commissioner Morris makes valid points. We do not have a defined project scope there. But I didn't think that we were going that deep into this, and that's kind of the reason I wanted to keep it on here. I, again, ran on infrastructure in our county. I don't want to delay it anyway, but to Commissioner Morris's point, I don't want us to jump ahead and make rational decisions without really studying it. To me, this is just the first step in trying to find that qualified partner. And I'm assuming that once you receive these, they'll come back to us for the next step. I mean, we won't proceed without us looking at these.
Definitely not.
Okay. All right, that's all I need.
Commissioner Mendenhall?
Well, basically, Commissioner Yance took about everything I wanted to say, so thank you, Commissioner Yance, I appreciate that.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Mr. Vice Chair, since Commissioner Yance did mention the 2 or 3 ideas or issues that I wanted to bring up, I'm going to pass my time to our county manager, who was in the middle of some comments a while ago, if you don't mind.
Sure. I was planning to do that anyway, but thanks for the reminder. I appreciate it. Mr. Manager, the floor is yours, sir.
Well, it's just that I was, trying to answer or help Commissioner Morris with some of his questions there, and this is not intended to say this is exactly what we are doing. This is intended to say, and this is what we need to do, and how do we go about doing it. And we're trying to get someone to come in and say, you do it. You go about doing it by, defining what your project is, how it's going to be laid out, and where it's going, and what's being hooked up, and what's this water serving. And with that, then it goes into being that we're able to take that and then move forward with saying this is what the engineers has laid out. This is what the engineers said that it would take to get this project done, and then we would solicit grant funding or any kind of funding we could that would help offset the cost or the burden on the taxpayers. So with that, said, and even in the budget that was presented to you in the 2019-20 budget, you've seen to where Mr. Delahana already had got a grant of, what was it, 50,000?
Yeah, for a study. That was through the Water Sewer Authority.
Right.
And that was with the previous board that I introduced that. And they $50,000 for a merger regionalization water study, and it was all engineering. And this, I realize maybe it's not a project, but this idea came out of that in conversations with them is what's important to you, what has the most promise for economic development, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of where this project sprung from, if you will, for lack of better terms.
And it goes in and it talks about the well capacity and what it can produce, and do we need to have any more, and then the height of a tank so we'd have adequate pressure to supply the water, and then the type of water lines and the size that would need to be run throughout the Meadows community to provide this water. And in this study that you had done through this grant that you received, also said that was in the budget for the commissioners to review, and an estimated cost of $2.4 million at that time. And that was where they'd done the study, and that study was on several areas of the county. It was, areas of Pinnacle, areas of Walnut Cove, areas of Germantown, and Meadows was definitely one of them because of what was going on in the Meadows community. And I'm sure that the board was very interested in making sure that the amenities for economic growth was established in the Meadows community, and we wanted to make sure that adequate water would always be provided to our community college and our early college high school. So with that said, we are trying to get something started to where this is getting started. Are we going in the right direction? Are we using the people that we need to use to make sure that this gets off on the right foot? And it's like Mark said, I think it's a great idea that we have a committee here within the county established, and the board, and I would love for one of the board members to be sitting on that. And we make sure that we are making the right decisions and going and doing what's right for the taxpayers and making sure that this project is done correctly, and funding is applied through the sources outside of this county. And that would, if we could get it all funded somewhere else, that'd be great.
Let me offer a suggestion, and I'm certainly willing to open things back up for further discussion if we need to, but Commissioner Morris had a request at the beginning of this meeting that this be placed on a discussion agenda for next meeting. And I'm wondering at this point if that might be a reasonable option to move further along with this particular item. Would that address your concerns, Commissioner?
It would.
So why don't we just plan to, it's on the information agenda for this meeting, put it on a discussion agenda for next meeting with consensus from the board. Any objections, or?
No, I can agree with that.
Okay, Commissioner Mendenhall? Okay, you're on board. I'll go along with it. So, Madam Clerk, just put that on our discussion agenda for our next meeting. You want to?
I just have a couple additional comments, Mark. I would like to, and kind of the reason I wanted to put it off, I was in Texas all last week and I didn't get a chance to look into this, but I'd like to look at, there's been design work done on this water system by Baker Engineering, right?
That's correct, and that's one of the deliverables from the other grant that we received a while back, and that information is the property of the counties and counties and can be utilized by anybody.
Good, great. So I'd like for you to maybe, if you could, when we bring this back on discussion, familiarize the rest of the board with what information you have or don't have on previous designs, that work that's already been completed. Address the how this might interact, and David may need to get involved in this, with the 2035 plan as far as water for other parts of the county along with the Meadows area. Certainly, I mean, Golden Leaf's not mentioned here. They funded most of the other project, and so when we get to the point that we're figuring out how to fund this thing and everything and getting funds, I certainly don't want to leave them out. Because they may fund more than USDA if you go ask them, possibly.
Exactly right.
I'd like to get some, I don't know if you need to do this, but from some input from the South Stokes Fire Department folks on whether they'd be interested in still having a tank at their fire department. They may have changed their mind since then, if that is a possible option. And then I want to make sure this doesn't limit us as far as partnering with whoever we may partner with in the future on the project to find somebody that can get funding for us, that we don't have to pay local funds for this. And, you know, we need somebody who aggressively goes after funds that are grant funds, maybe low-interest loans or whatever, but minimize the county's amount of local county dollars that we have to put in the project. Even though I'm perfectly well, you know, understand the process that you got to put skin in the game to make these projects work. That's a fair request from anybody, but the minimum skin would be nice, you know, so. And then as you look for engineering firms, I like a wide distribution of companies to be contacted so that we make sure that everybody's aware of this and we get the best group to work with. But that's enough now for now until we get to the discussion agenda.
Mr. Vice Chair, may I have the floor?
Yes, sir.
I would feel very much more comfortable, Mark, as you put your committee together, having two commissioners on your committee. Two would be allowable to perform that duty without it breaking any rules or violations. And also remember that what we have there now with the early college for SciTech, the new trades building that's being placed there, the Friends of Adoption, the shelter there. There's a lot of things that are going into that area, and I just want to make sure that we, as a committee, and as we go through the process, make sure everything's covered.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
To be honest, we don't want to leave you out there. We've had some other comments. Would you choose to make any?
I'm okay. Thank you, though. Thank you for the opportunity.
One last comment, I would agree with Commissioner Mendenhall about two commissioners being on this.
Yeah, I was just thinking, and I actually had that same thought cross my mind, that maybe two offers a little more balance, whatever, extra set of years. And also, I'm wondering if this board needs to give its concurrence to the makeup of a committee to do this project. And that would include number of commissioners, whoever. I don't think there'd be any problem with anyone you suggested, but sometimes I just feel more comfortable if the board has kind of gave its stamp of approval.
As would I.
I agree.
All right, thank you very much. And Madam Clerk, would you come over here just a minute, please? I managed to mess up my laptop. I had it for a little bit, and now I'm back on.
Something opened up here.
It looks like our tax
Yeah,
administrator's
it's your
report.
next one anyway, but let's see.
There we go,
There
it
you
looks
go. It's all
familiar.
good. You want to leave it there, or you want me to take it all the way back out?
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. Sorry about that, folks. I'm a computer alien, not a computer native. Next item is our tax administrator's monthly report, and that's our tax administrator, Richard Brim. Richard, good to have you with us here this evening.
Good evening. First thing I would like to do is present the regular monthly tax report. First item I have is the monthly tax collection status report. It indicates that we've collected $21,231,236, or 99.49% of the budgeted amount for the fiscal year 2018-2019. The next item I have is the discovery and garnishment report. The discovery portion of that report indicates that we have discovered a total of $7,947,664 of total value. which has produced $86,493.19 of tax levy. Second portion of that report shows the garnishments. For the fiscal year, we've garnished on 1,015 accounts for a total of $529,860.79. And throughout the fiscal year, we've collected $250,064.70 of that amount. Next item I have is our EMS billing and collection report. Shows that we have billed 4,137 transports for a total of $2,669,730. Has collected almost $1.5 million of that. And over to the far right, you'll see contractual write-offs for Medicaid and Medicare of $746,158. Our next item is the data max collections report for the last quarter of the fiscal year 2018-2019. Data max collected $13,944 on behalf of Stokes County in 3 different categories for EMS, vehicle taxes, and property taxes. Next item is real and personal releases less than $100. We have 2 accounts for a total of $63.81. And then the final item is real and personal refunds more than $100. We have 10 accounts that total $1,628.49. That concludes the tax office regular monthly business. I would like to ask that the board place the real and personal refunds more than $100 on the July 22nd, 2019 consent agenda for approval.
Commissioners, you've heard our tax administrator's request that the item he mentioned be placed on our next meeting's consent agenda. What is the pleasure of the board regarding his request? Yes. No consensus? No objection?
No objection.
Okay. Madam Clerk, if you would please put the item suggested by our tax administrator on next meeting's consent agenda. Thank you. Okay, Richard, you have another item, I believe?
Yes, sir. The next item that I have is our annual settlement of the fiscal year 2019 annual settlement report. First item I would like to present is our yearly collection rate for fiscal year 18-19. I'm not going to bore you by reading 11 pages worth of figures, but I would like to mention over the past few years our collection percentage has been in the 97 and 97.5% range. I'm pleased to report to the board that per my calculations, our annual collection rate for fiscal year 18-19 is 97.38%. And if you just want to flip through the next 11 pages, goes through each tax district and then gives the percentage that was collected and what was budgeted, and then there's a breakdown of each month for each district. And then the final page there, you'll see delinquent taxes and prior year taxes that we collected in each district and each category. So the next item is the annual settlement of the fiscal year 18-19 that we have to perform per North Carolina General Statute 105-373. This is 2 parts. First part is the order of the Chief Accounting Officer, and that's Ms. Julia Edwards, basically saying that I have presented her with all the prepayment of taxes and fees for fiscal year 18-19 in the amount of $105,043.22. The next item is the resolution of settlement. This is North Carolina General Statute 105-373, and it just says, after July 1 and before he is charged with taxes for the current fiscal year, the tax collector shall make a sworn report to the governing body of the taxing unit showing the following. And you'll see the difference between the advertised list that I presented on February the 4th, 2019 for real property accounts, showing that we had 3,885 bills that were delinquent, and there was a principal balance for the general county school operating education fund of $1,534,085.81. And now the amount of delinquent real property taxes as of the end of the fiscal year, we've cut that down to 1,691 accounts for $628,705.58. Then you'll go on down the page there and you'll see on the next page, you'll actually see a summary list of all delinquent taxes, real and personal, as of June 30th for each taxing district. Then the next page, I kind of got out of order there. I apologize. That was actually, should have been 2 pages back, but that just shows you where Ms. Julia Edwards signed off on the prepayments of $105,000. She signed off on that, and that's been given to her. The next item is the 2018 report of insolvents for personal property. We didn't have any insolvents. We consider everything we've got out there still solvable, hopefully. So the next item I've got is the 2018-2019 personal property collections report. Listed below are the collections amount and collections percentage for individual personal property, business personal property for each taxing jurisdiction in the county. The overall net levy for the county was $1,297,068.04. We actually collected for this physical year $1,244,013.72, which equals a collection rate of 95.91% for personal property. The next item we've got is a resolution that orders the following. It orders the insolvent amount for 2018 to be entered in the minutes and accepted insolvent amount, and further that said insolvent amount be credited to the Stokes County Tax Administrator in his settlement. Number 2, orders the tax liens for 2018 property taxes for the purpose of collection to be recharged to the Stokes County Tax Administrator. Number 3, orders the settlement for delinquent prior year taxes to be entered into the minutes, and that the uncollected balance of said taxes be recharged to the Stokes County Tax Administrator for the purpose of collection. Number 4, orders that the 2018 property tax settlement by the Stokes County Tax Administrator be accepted in accordance with Section 105-373E of the North Carolina General Statute. And then the final item I have is the charge to collect fiscal year 1920 taxes for the county, all special districts, and all municipal taxes. I would like to request the board to place the following items on the July 22nd, 2019 consent agenda for final approval in order to meet our schedule with South Data for mailing the 2019 annual tax bills on July 26, 2019. First item is the annual settlement of fiscal year 18-19 per North Carolina General Statute 105-373 resolution. And the second item I'm requesting being moved to the consent agenda is order to collect fiscal year 1920 taxes per North Carolina General Statute 105-321 and 105-354. That's all I have.
That's a bunch.
It is. Took a long time to put all that together.
Yep. Commissioners, you've heard the information shared with us this evening by our tax administrator. I'll open the floor for questions or comments at this time, and we'll start with Commissioner Yance. Yeah, how about that?
Mr.
Mr. Brown, thanks for presenting again. All great information, and the collection rates look like they're in line with our historical years in the past, so all's well there. Again, that's all I have. It looks very favorable, so thanks again.
Okay, Commissioner Mendenhall?
Thank you, Commissioner Walker. The only thing I'd like to say is, Richard, I think you and the remainder of your tax department has done an outstanding job. As I've looked over this over the weekend and looked at especially percentage collection and going through everything, I feel like you've done a great job. And I'd like for you to pass it along to the remainder of your workforce in the tax department.
Most certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll recognize Commissioner Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good job, Richard, on the report. I'm good with your request for the consent agenda next time. And I'd echo Commissioner Mendenhall's comments that you guys are doing a great job down there.
Thank you.
We'd expect nothing less. He's following a good tradition set by our now county manager, previous tax administrator, and I think, Jake, you trained him well.
The smart man.
Following in your footsteps and doing a good job of it.
Thank you.
Richard, I used to ask Jake this question when he was in your position. I probably have asked it to you too. What in particular, if anything, do you notice in this information you presented to us this evening that pops out in any special way for you? Percentage here or there, or what's caught your attention as far as anything in this information?
I do like to look back at previous years to kind of gauge where we're at. And I did look back, and, that's where I said 97 and 97.5 is about where you're going to be. We're sitting 97.38, so that's in that range. And but looking back, I think that's probably about the most you're going to get because, some folks, for whatever reason, just get delinquent on their taxes, and you're not going to get any more than that. And if you look back even further, at one point we were around the 96 range, and that was pretty constant. But that was before North Carolina Department of Revenue and NCBTS come about, because the vehicles were bringing our overall collection percentage down because we were only collecting probably 85%, and that was bringing that down about a point and a half. And with them doing that, we're almost getting just about 100% of what you'll get from the VTS. So they've helped us a lot by doing that. So other than that, nothing really sticks out. It's just relief to me when I'm going over the numbers and look at it like, whew, we're in that range. We haven't dropped the ball anywhere. And that's probably about the max you're going to get no matter what you do.
What I'm hearing you say is nothing particularly spectacular on the good side, and likewise nothing disturbing on the downside. So we're right in the range, a comfortable range, and I'd consider that a pretty good place to be.
Yeah.
What was this 99.4 you mentioned to start with? I got excited when I heard that figure.
99.49 was the actual collection percentage that we collected of the 97.41%.
Gotcha. Yeah,
That's,
I'm with you now. That still got a good sound to it. Any other questions or comments? Just floor's open, whoever would like to respond in any way. Thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. We've been meeting for about an hour and 20 minutes. How about a 5-minute recess? Declare us in recess, 5 minutes.
You're still recording, but you're muted.
Next item is our salary study proposals. Let's see who the contact person is for that. Madam Clerk, do you know?
It's me.
Oh, okay.
So,
We're listening.
yeah, so we received 5 proposals that we sent out. We sent them out to the companies that had all bidded before. Last time it was sent out with the RFP. We posted it online and sent it to some other companies, and we got back 5 proposals, all from, good reputable companies, some of which proposed last time we sent these out. We'll notice that the one company that proposed last time, the Springstead Company, has now combined with another company, and now they're called Baker Tilly. So basically, if you'll look in your packet, you've got a copy of each proposal. I went through and looked at them a little bit. I've skimmed them. I won't say I've read them cover to cover. We've got $45,000 in capital reserve for the funding of the salary study. So once the board agrees on a company or how they want to proceed, that money can be allocated in for that study. A couple of the companies that proposed did exceed that amount, so it'll be up to the board to decide on if they're wanting to put more funding into that, if they decide that proposal is better and they want to go with that proposal. The Archer Company proposal that came in was at $63,800. The Baker Tilly, which is merged with Springstead, was the $104,400 proposal. McGrath was $35,589. Mercer, the cheaper proposal on that one was $19,750. If you look at page 14 on that proposal, it'll list in there that amount is not to exceed that, but it also has a lot of these kind of exclusions where it'll say like a $75 fee for certain things. So, you have to read over that and kind of see what you think, but that sounds to me like it could exceed $19,750, and it's quite a bit less than the other proposals. And then, of course, the PTRC was the $32,250 proposal. We also made copies of these for you and put them in a binder just on paper in case you wanted some paper copies to look over to be able to really read through those thoroughly if you want to. Basically, with this one, it would just be up to the board to compare these apples to apples, see which ones you think offers the most for the funding that we have for that, and advise us on how you want to proceed as far as if you want to look at the top couple that you think are the best and want to have them come in and actually present to you in person and talk to you. I've talked to a couple of these companies quite a few times during this process, and all have been very forthcoming and willing to kind of tweak things, change things for you, however you want that to work. So I think any of them would be a good choice. It'll just be up to you to decide which one you want to move forward with.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Assistant County Manager, Madam Clerk. Mr. Mendenhall, you look like you're ready to jump in with this one and share a thought or two, so the floor is yours.
Well, I'm going to have to be honest. I was quite shocked when I read over these and saw the difference in the prices. So I want to ask Shannon, my first question is to make sure, did everybody have the same?
RFP?
Yes. And they all were looking at it, the same one.
Yes, the only.
I guess the thing that shocked me the most is I looked through 5, and one was 19,000. One was 19,000, and one was 104,000.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, 19,000 and 104,000.
Yeah.
And then I think we had a 32,000, a 64,000, a lot of in-betweens, but 19 and 104, $80-some thousand difference.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I cannot see how a company can, and you said that they might be willing to come and give us, be able to speak to us personally, or whatever, and I don't know how the other board members feel about that. That's certainly up to them, but usually we try, if possible, to go with the low bid. But as you said, that $19,000 bid might have some nuances in it that we're not aware of. But I'm just a little hesitant right now with that much of a difference. I don't know if we might not need to get them in here in person and question them. I don't know. Mr. Commissioner Walker, that's all I have right now. I might want to come back to it.
Commissioner Young?
Yeah, there's a lot of information in these, and I have to echo Commissioner Mendenhall's sentiments that the fluctuation in the proposals is quite astonishing. But tried to read through and see the differences, and as Shannon stated, I've not read every word verbatim, but I'm going to need a little more time to kind of digest this and try to see if I can drill into where all the differences lie. There has to be something there.
Like I say, the one thing I did notice is I really tried to look closely at the one that had the $19,000 bid because it was so far under the others. And it did have some things on page 14 where it stated like there would be some additional cost if this happened or that happened. So there would, I would expect it probably to get up more into that range of what the more like the 35, 32, that's what they kind of seem to be more at on that end. The 63 was obviously a little high. The 104, I've read through that one pretty closely too, and it's a nice proposal, but I can't really see any real major differences in it compared to like the PTRC or the Mercer that's, hanging around, or the McGrath rather, hanging around the $35,000 mark. And I did actually, if any of them questioned anything, I had one question from the Archer Company early into the RFP, and when I responded to her, I responded with the same response to all the companies and sent them the same information that she wanted. And I had a question from the PTRC from Matt as well, and the same thing. If I responded to one, I sent the question to the other companies and let them know it had been asked from another competing company, and I sent them the same response. So everybody had the exact same RFP, and anything that was added additionally as far as like a question from another company after that.
I have some more general observations than specific questions. One thing I'm thinking about is what do we do when we ask for a certain, I think our request was for how much, no more than what amount?
Well, we have $45,000 in capital reserve for funding a salary study.
Right, but did we?
But we didn't put a dollar amount into that.
Oh, okay, that clarifies one of the things I was trying to deal with.
No.
Did we specifically ask for a dollar amount? And the answer,
We just sent a
no,
proposal.
we did not.
And put a dollar amount.
So we could consider even the two higher amounts if we felt it were justified.
Yes.
You've really done some research into this, I can tell. You've studied it and done some comparisons and analysis, and got us farther along with the process by the work you've put into it. I'm thinking, I certainly want to give Commissioner Morris a chance to share his thoughts, but I'm thinking within the next couple of weeks, we possibly, if it's the board's pleasure, could put this on the action agenda for our next meeting. Doesn't mean we have to make a hard, fast decision. The decision then might be to get certain ones, or even request all the responders to come give a personal presentation. Seems like at some point I recall some interest on the part of the board to getting the top 2 or 3 maybe. I remember maybe top couple or something like that, but that's pretty much where I am. I'm still trying to get all these pieces to fit together. It's a lot to process. Something pretty important for our county. It needs to be done right. We need the company involved that can do the best job for us. And now the question becomes, how do we find which one of these 5 it is? Commissioner Morris?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I read through the proposals, not 100%, but fairly well today, and the best I can tell, it looks like they're all responsible bidders. They can all do the job. I guess you guys need to determine if they're responsive to the RFP, and I think they are. They look like they all were, but unless somebody left out some important part that you asked them to put in, but I didn't see that in looking through the proposals. I'm not too surprised by the numbers, except for maybe one of them. Because it's been 20 years since we had a formal outside type study of this scope, which, you know, adds to the amount of work that needs to be done to get everything pretty much updated and so forth. So, though I like to pick low bidders, I may get away from that on this to ensure we get the right company in to do this. In reviewing the proposals, it looks like they all, I think if we get this done by February, we're still probably good for next year's budget. So it looked like every one of them, I think, had it in there either February or December or earlier than February or February at the latest. I think they were okay on the schedule. The scope of what they were offering looked okay. They had various levels of qualifications of personnel, but they all, I think, met at least the minimum requirement for personnel qualifications to conduct the study from their companies. The cost, there's no doubt in my mind which one is the best proposal and the best company to do this. If I was, from what I read in the proposal today, and that's Baker Tilly. That's Springstead combined with some other folks. And Springstead, I've looked at some of the work they've done, and they were extremely well done in other counties. They gave us a $45,000 quote 2 years ago, so I guess, you know, they've added some overhead when they combined it with Baker or whatever, or whatever.
Three of those companies that have merged into that
Yeah.
one now.
Whatever they did, they obviously have a little bit different pricing structure now than they used to. The other three, the ones like in the 55, 60 range is kind of what I expected given the scope of work that we've requested them to do. The PTRC proposal I thought was the weakest of all of these, and that's not a criticism of PTRC. I work with them on a lot of things, but this is not their primary function, doing salary studies. This is one of the things they do, along with 40 other things that they do for counties. So I guess, you know, my first impression after reading the proposals today is that I would probably, well, with Mercer, the thing about Mercer is you can't tell what their price is. So if I put the prices aside and looked at the language that was in the proposals, then I basically could take any of them basically, but I think Burkittilly's the best. I thought McGrath and Mercer looked really good, and Archer looks very good as far as what they put in the language that they would do. So then we get into the cost of them, and the McGrath proposal, they priced two separate items. They had $35,000 for the study, and then $20,000 to do a rewrite of the job descriptions, update and rewrite of the job descriptions. Then if you look at Mercer, they've got $20,000 for the study, and then this $75 per job description. And I think what they were saying in there is that if it's there will be a set of standard job descriptions that go across the board for everybody, but then there will be some that are not standard. And the way I understood it, they would, for every one that was not standard, they would charge $75, and then maybe a one-time charge for the standard ones. So to figure out their price, I think you're going to have to talk to them, or we will, to figure out exactly what they mean by that, and then look at the numbers of job descriptions that we have that have to be, and I think all of our job descriptions have to be reworked, almost, unless maybe Health and DSS possibly have some that are totally up to date from their accreditation process or whatever. So, I think the bottom line is if I was doing it today, I would probably throw out Baker Tilly and PTRC, and I would look at the other three, and I'd try to get a more defined price on what the Mercer one cost. Because I think Mercer, McGrath, and Archer are all seem to specialize in this, at least to a certain degree of doing these things. And then I was a little bit concerned McGrath doesn't have a lot of work in North Carolina. I think that's the one that was from Wisconsin or somewhere.
I had not heard of them before they
Yeah.
sent this in.
But they've done a lot of work, they just hadn't done a lot. I think they did the city of Fayetteville, maybe it said, but in a couple other, maybe 2 counties. But I think another thing we need to do, maybe before we actually meet with them, is have you guys check out a few references on each one, make sure, and see what kind of feedback you get. And then, like some of the other board members said, possibly have maybe the top 3 that we can agree on come in and answer questions specifically.
Do that.
Look at McGrath and Archer, they're pretty sort of close on the price.
Next, I looked at what you were saying about the job descriptions, and just worst case scenario, if they charged us $75 for each one, was going to come out to around $22,000.
Mhm.
So if you added that into that 19,000, you're coming out at about 42,000 there. So it's not real far off from the others when you start adding things in there.
Yeah, maybe we can get them to validate that a little bit or whatever. So I think they're going to have to do something to all the job descriptions.
Yeah, probably so. That's not a bad idea. It's been so long since they've been done. It's not a bad idea to do them anyway.
Exactly, so.
And I can completely check the references and then reach out to those when the board has a consensus on if those are the 3 for sure everybody wants to do. I can reach out to them and schedule something with them, either to be here in person or we can set it up with Skype or however, have them send something up to clarify some questions that everybody may have.
Sounds good. I think that's all I have, Mr. Chair, for now.
Other comments, thoughts?
No, I just would say, as many people as I've heard in the educational system, to me, if we have 3, I think Rick said 2 or 3, or Commissioner Walker, Commissioner Yance, 2 to 3, the top 2 to 3 in our minds. 2 things stand out in my mind that I think will, in the end, help us make the decision. One is the reference checks. Something usually will show up in a reference check somewhere. Every time I have come down to 2 or 3 people, and you do a good reference check, and that means usually about three people, 3 of their supervisors along the way, you check with them, something's going to show up, usually. And the other one is, I say we bring in the top 3, if all the reference checks check out okay, and speak to them in person. Because I like to be able to see people and look at them and to listen to them in person instead of over the phone or what's on paper. Personally. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Yance, you thought of anything in addition?
Nothing additional. I also believe that, just briefly, we can narrow it down to 3, and all of us get our 3, and then with the assistance of you, we can certainly call those 3 in and do an interview with them. Again.
And because of the way that RFP was done, as far as, and I think that was the recommendation when Commissioner Morris mentioned that weighted scale, it doesn't limit you to any kind of choosing the cheapest thing. It's based on where they lie in that scale of what you want from them. So you can pretty much pick it based upon that more than the cost, as far as that goes, which is an advantage to that.
Best value.
That's right.
This is a pretty complex item, and I'm wondering when we can move it further along. When can we arrive at our 3? And I'm thinking maybe it'd be good to have Chairman Nicholson involved too. It's pretty important for our county that this be done right and that there be involvement by all our board. How about if we think about putting it either on a discussion or action? I don't really have a preference as far as next meeting. Maybe by then Shannon can check some of the references. If anyone has any basis for ruling any of these providers out at this point, we could discuss that and narrow it down a little, and Shannon wouldn't have to spend time checking references for someone we're not going to consider. So if there's anyone that we feel like is not in the right, I'm going to just toss one out. I've been involved with PTRC, great organization, do lots of good for the area. But I'm sort of agreeing with Commissioner Morris on this. I don't think salary and compensation studies is their forte. I don't think that's really high on the list of what they do in a really top quality way. So I might look at them going in as far as one that I just temporarily take off the list. Now, I guess if we had reason to do so, we could include them at a later point, but that would leave us 4.
Well, I agree. I mean, I don't think Piedmont Regional Council's forte is doing salary studies, personally, but that's just one commissioner's response.
I would agree with taking them off too,
Okay.
just based on their proposal compared to the other proposals.
Commissioner Giants, where are you with that, sir?
I could agree with that, simply by looking over the proposals and the language in the proposals.
Okay. So we can narrow it to 4 at this meeting. And not that you would have to check references for Piedmont Triad
Yeah.
Council anyway, but they're pretty well self-explanatory, well-founded. Is there anything else we can do at this meeting as far as moving other than maybe decide collectively as a board that we're going to put it on our next meeting's agenda, providing Shannon's being able to do her due diligence, and make other decisions at that time, including Chairman Nicholson.
No, I think you're right on it, Commissioner Walker. I think at the next meeting, this is just my suggestion, certainly everybody has their own ideas, but I'd say at the next meeting, we narrow it down to 3 and then bring those 3 in.
I like the sound of that. How about you, Commissioner Morris?
Good with that.
Commissioner Morris. We have consensus. Madam Clerk, now would that be on action?
You can place it on action, because you can always discuss it in action, and maybe by that point, when Commissioner Nicholson is here, I'll go ahead and he has his agenda, but I'll go ahead and get that packet out to him too to be looking at. So he'll have time to review him a little, and he can also know what you discussed here tonight as far as your options. So by then, he should be able to make a decision on that too, as far as narrowing down to 3. And then,
If for any reason we are not able to narrow it down to 3 even at that meeting, although that is our intention, we can keep moving this along and getting closer to where we need to be.
and I mean, I don't anticipate that, but I may be able to check references, maybe it'll narrow it to 2. I mean, it's just, based on what I am able to find out when I start diving into that a little bit, so.
Right, and there's a kind of double-edged, so to speak, type risk. We don't want to rule out someone that would eventually have been our best choice, but we don't want to spend time dealing with the ones that are not going to be the one we need in the long run.
Right.
So if we can get maybe 3 in here to talk to personally, that means like Commissioner Mendenhall said, just get it down to 3, hopefully in our next meeting. We'll be pretty far along with this. So action for next meeting?
That's good.
All right. Anything else before we move on? Mr. Manager, do you have any thoughts? I don't want to leave you out.
No. I agree with what the board is talking about, and Shannon and I will do our investigating, in other words, the references on all of them, and be ready to give you our information.
Good. County leased properties, let's see who the contact person is on that.
It's your county manager. I'll save you some time.
Very good, I was waiting for him to take the lead on what's. Mr. Manager, you're up, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to, we had spoken several times on some rented properties that the county has that we rent and lease out. We also have a piece of property here in Danbury that needed to be renewed, and we had discussed the purposes of what it is being currently used at. And I got with Ty, and we have went over the lease. So I have the old lease for the art market, Artist Way restaurant. And I have a new lease that Ty has prepared, and the new lease is bringing in areas of concerns that the board had and myself. And I also done a little study on areas in the town of Danbury that's being rented. And as you can see in the report here that there were 3 areas that I was able to find in the actual town area of Danbury, and 701 Main Street was one. 113 Courthouse Circle was another one, and 305 Main Street was one. 305 Main Street, I want you to consider that it has got a lot of repair that needs to be done to it. And so that rent there is a little cheaper due to it's not ready for anyone to move into and do anything. So it's got to have like a new roof and some other structures, other structural improvements done to it. But anyway, I utilize the rent based per square foot on it. The square foot is what most highway business, commercial properties are rented and based on. And the current rent that we have is for this site is $400 a month, but the going rate that I can tell for Danbury, in at least if you took an average of all 3 of these, is like 34 cents a square foot. And at that rate, you would apply that to the square footage that the Artist Way creation is renting, and that would be based at 3,944 square feet because of the size of the structure, and it is $1,340 rent per month. This would this would also include the basement, but the basement is basically used for storage for what was already being the intent of the purpose for the rental property anyway. Now it is the restaurant. So I pretty much took the rent to be what was the income producing area of the building and left that out. So if it was rented this way, you would receive everything there at that cost, and not a different cost for the basement area and the first story or any other story that is there. It is the actual main floor of where the business is being operated at, and that's what the square footage is based off on most of all rental properties. There are other factors that rents comes in, and that's the actual taxes that will be paid if the county decides that they want the rent to be the leasee to pay the rent, or the power bill and water bill comes into play a lot of times. And this is all based into the new lease agreement that Ty has drawn up for the county. And the reason why I went with Danbury, I do want to say this is because of this lease that needs to be renewed with the Artist Way. That Danbury is one I was focused on first, and then I will start looking at other areas that the county has property and that may be leased or rented out or have the potential of doing so in Walnut Cove and Meadows area and King area and anywhere else that I need to look at to do a study on what the rent is for that area, because location has everything to do with what someone will pay rent on a piece of property, because based on what type of business they're going to get and what kind of flow or traffic count that they would have. So, with all that taken in, and then I look at these businesses, I will have all that come before the board also. But right now, I'm asking that the board to consider the new lease agreement that Ty's drawn up and the new rent cost that is based on what renters are paying in Danbury, and let's move forward with our Artist Way Bakery and see if they are willing to do business with Stokes. If not, we'll move on with other ones.
Mr. Morris, would you like to
Sure, Mr. Chairman.
ask questions or make comments?
Just a couple, yeah. Have you already discussed the new rent amount with the current tenant or anything?
No, not until.
Not till tonight. Now it's out on the net, so she'll know. Okay. Were all these insurance requirements in the previous? I don't remember. I didn't read the old lease, to be honest with you, not lately. So, if she had to have the insurance coverage before, or is that something new?
That's something that I wanted in there just by the fact of what type of business it was and what was going on, and also what the county has already invested in that was part of this large structure. You know?
Yeah.
Because if anything happens there, it's going to spray it. And I do know that when the art market was revitalized, that they put in a lot of firewalls. And naturally so, I would understand why, but that would always protect this beautiful structure or this beautiful site that's been done. But anyway, if you want to be fair to the actual renters and people that is doing business in the county, and some paying this and some paying that, I would think it would be more on a more average area of what the market is calling for.
Okay, the last question I have for now is, do you have any idea if she needs both floors, or would it just be where is she going to come back and say, I really would just like to rent the top floor, or
When I look at it,
to be determined?
the top floor is what is the desirable rental area. If she wants that, this is what the rent would be, and the basement area would come with it.
So the basement area comes included in the 1340.96? Okay.
But it's just not counted in that formula.
Right. It's all based on the where the actual business is being run from.
If the person doesn't need the bottom floor, is the rent still 1340? Okay. Okay, that answers my questions for now.
Okay. I really don't have any specific questions at this time. I appreciate you pulling this information together for us. Certainly gives us something to look at and consider. I did have one thought cross my mind as we're going through this process, and that is, do you think is there a possibility you might identify any property during this process or information gathering and figuring it might be better to sell than to keep renting?
I'm sure that the county does have property like that, but I didn't look in to see if it was better for us to get out of leasing and renting on that side of it. Commissioner Walker, I believe I would leave that up to the people we getting ready to contract with as far as doing a building study.
Okay,
Of
good
course.
thought. I like that.
As soon as the cost comes back on their educational side of it, those folks will say, hey, this is good usable property, or here's a piece of property that you just really need to get rid of.
Right.
Because it's not feasible for you to even think about fixing it up. The structure's too far gone.
I like the sound of that. I'll stop there and let Commissioner Yachts ask his questions or make his comments.
Yeah, and just very quickly, I've read through both the lease agreements, and Commissioner Morris had asked about the insurance, and from what I understand, the liability is the same on both, in reading through them, and really, the language mirrors, with the exception of the lease agreement or the amount per month. I don't really see any other differences, and if there are any that I'm missing, you can kind of point out any other major changes in the verbiage in the lease agreement.
We got a little more stricter on the delinquent side of it.
Yeah.
And we've got a little more stricter on the utility side of it. And then we also got a little more stricter in on the usage of the property and allowing, make sure that everything was followed according to the fire marshal's inspections. To make sure that if any violations were found, that they was fixed immediately. And because your insurance and your company and our insurance, they look at these things and they kind of frown on it a little bit, where they see violations in areas that we are renting for the taxpayer, and they'll jack the insurance up on it because of violations of not being corrected. So we kind of got a little more stricter on that to make sure that was followed more closely and more put in place to where the things like it didn't happen or mistakes can be fixed.
Yeah, again, the condemnation clause is a little bit, as you said, it's a little more stringent than it was before, but utilities and things like that, to me, it mirrors exactly the old, and there's no differences to take care of. I just don't want it to be that we're not being that we're not trying to be a good steward and a partner in the community. That's not at all what I want this to be. I just want it to be an equitable, and fair. If that property is worth X amount of money, then we've been elected to make sure that we get fair market for it. And if that's what this is, then I can support it as long as we're not changing a bunch of other language.
The language, it was kind of updated a little bit to be current. This with current times and insurance policies and restrictions that they place on us. But Ty's the one that went through that and said that here's what needs to be placed in here and how it needs to be put in there. So like you said, it pretty much mirrors what's already there. It's just strengthening up some areas of concern. And naturally, if you're going to be good stewards of the taxpayers' property, then it would need to be rented at the going rate of what your area is calling for.
Commissioner
I don't have anything at this time. I've read over it a couple of times and got a good understanding of it, so no comments at this time.
What's the pleasure of the board regarding where we go with this item? What we do to move it forward?
Seems to me the next step would just be have a discussion with the current tenant, county manager, and you may get an argument on whether that's fair market value or not, and may take some further steps to validate whether it is or whether it's not. But I see how you calculated it, but I don't know who you would use to validate. You might use a realtor or something to validate that calculation to see if they agree with you. Otherwise, just have a discussion with the tenant and report back to us, I guess.
We discussed speaking with her beforehand, and obviously now it's, out, but we didn't want to put any real dollar amounts out there on anything that Jake was working on until he brought it to you to see if you had a very different look at that, so we can kind of have like an idea of what you're feeling before we speak with her, kind of where it's going from there.
I'd be more than happy to do that.
And speak with a realtor too.
Absolutely.
To get the,
Yeah, these, area you come from, I looked at your, realtor's market and I couldn't, really find anything out there that actually, looked at comparable rentals. I would think that, the appraisal side of it is based off of rentals and the income approach of properties once it's appraised. So yes, that does use, rental amount per square foot because that's what your appraisal is based off of. And it's based off of that because of also the location and the amount of business a place is using. But I will talk with her, and I will take any kind of concerns that she would have concerning the rent, if she thinks it's fair or not. And we will try to move forward in making sure that everything is fair for both parties.
That's what I was hoping you'd say, because that's, in the long run, what I'm looking for. And I think perhaps our other commissioners are as well, just to be as fair as possible to all involved.
Right.
Okay, Jake, you're up again, looks like. The YMCA recreation contract, you're listed as a contact person.
This previous one, is that going on the discussion agenda or action agenda?
for next.
This lease rental
Oh, I'm
property?
sorry, I didn't get an opinion from the board. Who would like to make a recommendation regarding discussion or action?
I'd recommend that we put it on action.
Okay, Commissioner Young's action,
Action.
nodding the
concur.
head from Commissioner Mendenhall, and I agree from Commissioner Morris, so I'm certainly on board as well.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir?
The rental of the Y, the contract with them that provides the services we have in the county on several areas, one being the exercise fitness center here at the hospital. They also look after Montauk Park and a lot of festivities that goes on there. The actual contract for years has always been $117,484 to handle this for the county. And this was the first year I actually seen, and forgive me on that, this would be my second budget. But my understanding, this is the first time that they actually showed the cost in their budget that showed that that they were providing more money than what we were being charged for, and that was in the amount of $3,111. So with that increase that they were having to fund to meet the same demand that they were always provided for the county, I went ahead and increased that actual cost of living to this contract, and that's where in it from the budget it had $120,559. So that would bring them up to where they said it was actually, this is what they were actually spending to provide these services for the county. And in that, it's already inside the budget that's been approved, so I'm just asking to move forward with the signing of this contract for 2019. And in that, that contract needs
There's really no changes other than they changed the amount.
right.
to
It's just the
reflect
amount of
budget.
money. The actual contract is pretty much the same. It's always been.
Well, on previous occasions here this evening, I've started with other commissioners. I think I'll take my turn first this time. Say a few things, and I think other commissioners would probably have some comments and questions as well. But for years, the 14 years that I've been on this board, most of those years, I've been uncomfortable with the current contract with the Y. And let me tell you why. I have nothing against the Y. I pay them $420 a year just to be a member. I've supported the Y ever since it's been in Stokes County, helped it be here. Worked very hard to help get the Y, Stokes County Y that we have. But I just don't think this small amount, whether it's the Y or next provider or whoever, is doing justice to what the recreational needs are in this county. It's far short. Now, if we want to support the Y, that's fine. I have no problem supporting the Y. But we need to be doing so much more to just keep up with where things, as far as I can tell, based on everything that's led to my understanding, we need to be doing so much more than just a minimal contract with a Y for certain selected services. And I asked, at one time, I think Derek Edwards was here, and I think Heather, and I don't remember her last name, she's also an employee of the Y, if they could gather some information on who's using the recreation center in Danbury, mainly who the people are, what time they're coming, and where they're coming from. I've received no information, and I guess my request has been forgotten by now. But anyway, another thing that I tie this in with is we're getting ready to do, as I understand it, a recreation study in this county. To really look at where we're doing well with recreation, where we could be doing better. And why isn't it I'm hearing a funny sound. What's going on, Julie, or Shannon?
I think we need to, let me just pull your mic up just a little bit.
But I think, I see
You're a nice
this.
loud talker. I think even with that, I think it's picking you up a little too good.
Okay.
I'm gonna pull you up like this and see if that helps.
Thank you. I'm still hearing something. Did you hear it?
Mm-hmm, I did, yeah.
See if that helps.
But it's just, to me, a less than ideal arrangement. Nothing against the Y whatsoever. Thank goodness, thank you, Lord, that we have the Y. And another thing, too, a couple of things. One is the Stokes County Family YMCA is for all of Stokes County. And a lot of these services we're paying extra for, I'm wondering why they're not being done out of the main Y for all the county and fees charged or whatever. Another thing too, that I'm kind of wondering, getting the pieces to fit together. You mentioned they want an additional $3,000. Or $3,700 or so, whatever. And that's a very small amount compared to when I asked them for financials a couple of years or so ago. They were subsidizing my figures. I mean, 10,000 and something like 10 or 11,000, something like that. A lot more than what you just mentioned. So I'm wondering what has changed. I mean, they were funding that, and part of I haven't looked at the latest financials. I apologize. I've had better times in the past several weeks or so, several months really. But I'm wondering what changed. They didn't ask for that additional amount before, so are you asking for it for them, or did they request it? Not that it makes that much difference. I want to be fair to anyone we deal with, certainly the Y.
This was what was in their budget when it was presented to the commissioners during the budget time. And it was recommended at that time that they would increase it to 120-some thousand due to in their budget, they showed that their actual cost of providing these services, that's what it cost instead of 117, and it was 120,000 probably for the last 3 or 4 years, but they just never have requested it, and they did not request it this time. I just seen if this was what the cost was, and this is what it was costing to provide the services outside in the rural areas of the county, other than their site in King, and that's what we contracted with, then I would think that we would meet what their actual cost really was for them to provide it. So that's why it was increased, and that's what we talked about during the budget, and that's actually what's been approved, Commissioner Walker, in the budget to move forward with this contract of 1 year. It goes from July 1 through June 30th. And they receive 2 payments every year, one being in July and one in January. And Julia takes care of that. So it's just that I'm asking us to move forward with signing this contract like they always have every year, and that needs to take place this month. But the actual cost was explained to me during the budget process of me meeting with the Y, was that this was cost increase that they were meeting and they were providing, and they just wanted to show us that, hey, that to provide the services that they were providing in the other areas of Stokes County, that it went over. They were actually being paid.
Kind of place it in perspective, so to speak, or maybe that's not even an apt description, but in the overall scheme of things, it's not really all that much.
Right.
And if that's what it takes to be fair in this situation, then that probably deserves some consideration. Now, what I'm kind of looking at is by continuing to just rubber stamp this Y contract each time it comes up, even to add 3,000 or 4,000 to it, I just don't think we're doing justice to recreation in this county. I'm becoming progressively more concerned. You look at any county around, we're so far behind where most counties are as far as what we're trying to do with recreation compared to our neighboring counties in this area. There's hardly any comparison. That's not where I like to see Stokes County. We're better than that. Our people deserve more than that. So it's not just an issue with the Y contract. If you want to give them $125,000 a year donation, just so they can provide better recreational activities from their perspectives, that's fine. But I want to see us not just stop there.
Right.
Let's see what we can do to bring recreation, give you a good comparison. Look at the arts we have in this county. You listening, Ellen?
I'm listening.
Look at what the Arts Council does. And compare what we're doing recreation-wise with, let's say, the Arts Council. I think arts, what do y'all have, Ellen? I'm sorry, but a $1.4 million budget per year?
We have $1 million for building.
Of the budget and building. And that, compare that to what we're doing for recreation. But anyhow, I'll let y'all speak. I don't want a long meeting anymore, y'all do, particularly on the summer month.
Can I give you one thing, just so you'll know? When you're speaking about you're used to seeing a larger number than the 117, more than 3,000. You're speaking of that sheet that you get every year, and you got one this year too, and I emailed one during the budget that shows the 151,590 amount.
Right.
And that's their, sponsorships, program service fees, management fee, the 117. They do a financial assistance discount that's right around $30,000. And when you do that between the 154,701 and take that off, you come up with the 120, the new amount. So that's the amount that Jake requested in the budget, just to get them so they're just completely just break even on that amount without, with that discount in there. So when you said that larger amount, and I can send that to you again, but it's a budget breakdown from the Y they bring every year that shows you how that money is spent.
Yeah, it was the total cost of what they've done in providing services here with the county. And then you have your financial assistant that she just talked about, and once that was taken out, it put them at $120,000 cost.
Just for perspective, and I know the other commissioners have questions and comments, just for perspective's sake, and I think back in the 80s, mid to late 80s, when Mabel Booth and others worked for our recreation department, I think our budget then was in excess of $300,000 a year for recreation. You take $1980 and convert them to 2019 dollars, that probably compares to about $45,000. I'm just guessing. I don't know the exact math, but it'd just be a small fraction of what that 120 is that we're putting toward recreation. It'd be probably 1/6 of what we were putting toward recreation in the mid to late 80s, for example. But anyhow, I just want to see more. When I vote against the contract, I'm not voting against the Y. I like the Y. Thank the Lord we have it here in the county. But I just think our people deserve so much more for our recreation. I think there's people that are not really being served in certain parts of the county under the present configuration, and we don't need to leave people out. Who's next? Anybody? Nobody wants to talk? Well,
I'm not opposed to looking at expanded recreation opportunities in the county for next year. That's the only comment I have.
Who else?
I'll be glad. And mine is short. I have voted all of my 3 years as a commissioner to support the Y. I voted in favor every year. I have had a good working relationship with Mr. Edwards throughout the years. However, I also agree with Commissioner Walker that, and similar to what Commissioner Morris just said, I agree that we need to look at expanding our recreational opportunities. Because as I've been quoted, so anytime I'm quoted, I'm never afraid to go back on it. I've spoken about recreation and the importance of recreation in any county, of how it helps to draw people in. And I still say behind the law enforcement, public safety, and some of those types of things, recreation comes right in there as far as my importance in my mind. So I believe in supporting the Y. I voted to support the Y. However, I also agree with Commissioner Walker that I'd like to see a real good, I don't want to call it, I don't know what the proper word would be, but study or looking into expanding recreational opportunity. Right? So, thank you, Commissioner Walker.
Thank you. And Commissioner Johnson, then I have another comment, based on what Commissioner Mendenhall said.
Yeah, I'm going to echo Commissioner Mendenhall and Commissioner Morse and your sentiments that certainly, I mean, recreation, if we can expand and bound on it, then by all means, we should be doing that. You know, tonight, I'm looking at the Y and the contract with them, and I'm certainly not willing to sacrifice that just to look at something else. I think that we need to build off of this or either look at another partnership in addition to, in lieu of. However, next year, I'd certainly entertain that, however we decide to go. But I think you're on to something that we definitely need to look at how we're going to expand recreation in our county. You look at the things that are gaining ground and really getting some traction in the county, the Arts Council, and to me, the Arts Council and recreation, they go hand in hand. They're you know, two very important components of moving our county forward. So however we decide to do it again, if it's in addition to, in lieu of, I would certainly entertain that.
Okay. All right, we need to, I was hoping for a shorter meeting, and I apologize for it going longer. I guess all of us hoped it would. But I just want to clarify that I have nothing against the Y. I think we're very, very fortunate to have the Y here, and it providing all the services it does, a pretty good assortment of them. I think one area of our county is favored under the present concept. I think people who live near the Y are favored versus those who don't live near the Y. And I think we need to work on that. I think there's some things we can do to help level the playing field regarding that. Well, anybody else have a comment, or do you just want this on the action agenda for next meeting?
Action next meeting.
Okay. Madam Clerk, action for next meeting. Okay, planning board appointments and reappointments.
Mr. Chairman, that's me again.
It is.
You are now in the action agenda, and this is the members of the Stokes County Planning Board, and these members' term has expired, and David Sutherth is asking for the following 5 members to be renewed and reappointed. And that was on your previous discussion agenda of your last meeting, and it was Ted Hairston from Beaver Island, and you had Tommy White of Peters Creek Township, you had Ronnie Tilley of Big Creek Township, Keith Woods of Danbury Township, and you have Patrick Flincham of Meadows Township that needs to be reappointed. And based on David Sutter's recommendation, he's requested that these 5 members be reappointed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Manager. I'll now open the floor for nominations for for planning board reappointments.
Make a motion that nominations be closed.
Okay? I have a motion that the nominations be closed. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Motion carries 4-0. I'll now poll the board. Commissioner Morris?
I need to call out the names.
You could just say list as presented if you'd like.
List as presented with Harrison, White, Tilly, Wood, and Flincham.
Okay, the same.
Yeah, list as presented.
I like to call them out.
All right, go for it.
Harrison, White, Tilly, Wood, Flincham.
Very good. Madam Clerk, we have consensus as far as the reappointments, so proceed accordingly, please. Is that our last item? No, we have one more, right? About one time too many. King American Legion Post 290, Stokes County Agricultural Fair request. Contact to Steve Page, but he was here last meeting.
Was, and there, they have a meeting tonight for, yeah.
Make a motion that we approve budget amendment number 3.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I'm going to read into that the request is granted at $6,500, and that along with the motion that budget amendment number 3 be approved also. Madam Clerk, is that sufficient?
That's correct.
I would like to just make a very brief comment, and that is, I really like the tone of the discussion with Mr. Page and the board. Felt like there's a real high degree of cooperation regarding his request. And this is the first time, as he mentioned, the first time I'm aware of also that they've ever asked for any help from the county for the Stokes County Agricultural Fair. And Commissioner Morris made a very good observation, I thought. This is kind of the showcase for your FAA and 4-H members, young folks with an interest toward agriculture. So I'm very pleased to support this, and I feel like from what I was hearing last week, or other board members also. But any other discussion? There being no further discussion, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
A motion
Second.
to adjourn and a second. Commissioner Morris has seconded, Shannon. And any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, no. Meeting is now adjourned.